Welcome to the very first episode of Return to the Temple, a retrospective look at Lucha Underground, a fantastic and unique wrestling show. I am Jacob, and I am joined here by Steve.
Hey everybody, what's going on? We are going to talk about good lucha things, even though that happened on a different show. Uh, Very excited to come back and watch a bunch of Lucha Underground. I usually do that, but now I get to talk about it into a microphone, which is fun.
Uh, so we are going to be going episode by episode over each episode of Lucha Underground, and we are going to be talking about it. And this is something that I have not done yet. I have actually never finished Lucha Underground. But Steve, you've watched it a couple times, or just all the way through once?
I feel I've watched it all the way through a couple times. I feel like I've seen season 4 twice, and I think I've seen all the other seasons 3, maybe 4 times.
I think I have. So I know that I've watched all of season one. I believe most of season two. I think I got almost all the way to Ultima Lucha Dos, but I have not quite done that. But let's talk about. Let's spend a moment and talk about our previous Lucha Underground experience. So when was the first time you watched Lucha Underground?
I want to say it was when it was on Netflix. I think it was between season 3 and 4. Season 4 came out around 2018. That was same time. If anybody watches 205 Live, that was like peak 205 Live. So Wednesdays were like the best day ever for a while.
Okay, Buddy Murphy
Uh,
Stan.
oh yeah. That's my boy. If there was a Buddy Murphy presence in the temple, then I don't think I'd ever watch another wrestling show.
I not to brag, had a bit of a unique experience with Lucha Underground, which is part of the reason I'm so excited to revisit it. Lucha Underground was the first wrestling I ever watched. Episode one of Lucha Underground was the first professional wrestling I ever saw, and I had watched it on recommendation of a podcast, and I was enamored from episode one. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is now that I've been a wrestling fan for about 5 years, I am excited to kind of look back and take my now wrestling veteran eyes and look back at Lucha Underground and see how my experience changes.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'll be a whole lot of fun. Already talking over each other. Good start.
I mean, like, no, well, I
But
think that I mean, I've already experienced it in episode one, but if you don't mind, do you want me to give a kind of quick overview of how we're going to be approaching the podcast?
absolutely go for it.
So our plan is that we are going to kind of, when we're talking about an episode, we're going to go through it piece by piece and then summarize it at the end. And so we have. Did you watch it today or did you watch it yesterday? Episode one.
I watched it today. I actually watched it once and then skimmed through it a second time.
Well, that is excellent because we are going to be talking about episode one today. So it is good that we have both watched it. Would you like to kind of give any more preface, or do you want to jump into the episode?
Only preface I'd give is that to sort of counter your point about being very interested to see how you are as a wrestling fan, I found myself on this rewatch really paying attention to the sort of more television style production of it
Mm.
and the sort of creative choices that they make as well as the technical ones. And I have some stuff to say about that once we get there because those of people who are enjoying Lucha Underground for the first time, there's a lot of stuff that Lucha Underground does that no other wrestling company has probably ever done. In terms of production, I'm very excited about that.
Absolutely, it's a very unique and very very interesting wrestling show. So should we jump in right in? I really want to hear. So the first thing we're given is not an introduction to the arena. It's not an opening musical video package. It is a whole cinematic production, which we're gonna become very accustomed to as we move through Lucha Underground. Do you want to tell us kind of what we saw in that opening video package?
Yeah, so the first thing we see is just three dudes going crazy and kung fu fighting. Uh, and we'll actually see that they start throwing in a little bit of wrestling moves, but eventually are there's one guy we never see his face, but he's fighting multiple people, right? And
Not
he
very
goes down
successfully. He's
swinging.
he's kind of getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, it's a very come to Jesus moment. he gets brought down, and then out of the shadows, a man in a green mask, who I don't believe is named in this episode, swoops in and saves the day, and essentially tells this guy about the Lucha Underground initiative.
Well, he doesn't just tell him about the Lucha Underground initiative. He tells him about, and this is something that watching Lucha Underground for the first time, I was also a little skeptical about, but the Aztec roots in universe of Lucha Libre, which I don't believe is a real thing, unless I am completely and totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is a bit of a creation of this episode. So according to this mystery man, who we will come to know later, we're going to treat this pretty chronologically, but let's refer to him as Dragon Azteca just for the sake of not having to call him Mystery Man constantly.
Yeah.
Which is his name, as we will learn later. Dragon Azteca explains to this young man that Lucha Libre, which he is hoping to teach him, stems from the 7 ancient Aztec tribes who practice Lucha Libre kind of in a ritual combat way.
Yes.
And we actually see 3 people as a part of this like combination flashback and like intro package. We see 3 people wearing luchador outfits with some kind of like Aztec or you know like Hollywood-esque Aztec ceremonial garb. We see Prince Puma, who we will meet later in this episode. Luchador dressed in green, who I believe is Dragon Azteca Jr., but I'm not certain, and Mil Muertes, who we will meet next episode.
Yes.
And so I just found that very interesting. So, and we also get a little background on the kind of formation of Lucha Underground itself, right?
Yes, we do see Dario Cueto invade. I haven't actually seen how this played out at the time. I've only seen it in this recap version. Dario Cueto, or the character of Dario Cueto, we'll get into the nature of that later, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Walks down stage of Triple Mania, and recruits all of their wrestlers, all of their luchadores for Lucha Underground. And he says it, come wrestle for me in America, and the whole crowd boos. It's a great, like this guy's a heel, everybody. It's a great moment.
And so I remember, so I'm going to be doing this a lot, but I remember my first time watching this, and I had no idea what AAA was. And so I was really confused as to, like, who this guy was and where he was. Like, I thought, like, is this Lucha Underground? Is this, like, what the stage is going to be like? And then when we were actually taken to the temple itself, I was just very disoriented as a first-time viewer. But now, with the knowledge of professional wrestling, I can come back and kind of understand what was going on here. And, it's a really cool promotional move. Like, imagine if you were watching, like, AEW Dynamite one week, and you had something similar happen where just a random guy came out of nowhere and said, all of your wrestlers will now appear on my show also. Like, it would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And I don't know if they piped in the audience reaction, but the fact that they all booed him because he was talking about bringing them to America was just such a great... It was just a great, like, flavor to it that you wouldn't see in any other situation, right? Like, if somebody came out, for instance, if you said on AEW Dynamite and just said, there's going to be another hour of wrestling with all of these guys, and they're going to be in Japan or something, the crowd would go nuts. They'd love it. But there's such a sense of loyalty down there. Or at least it's... Again, because I haven't seen it, they might have piped it in, but, like, being able to give that perception of him being this invader that's pillaging is really great for the story that they're building up throughout the seasons with Dario.
I would even say that, because of the cinematic nature of Lucha Underground as a promotion, whether or not they piped in those boos is, like, less relevant. Like, if it was WWE, for example, or AEW, I would feel a lot more strongly about it, but just, like, whether or not they piped in that booze, the whole point of that clip was to establish very early, people don't like this guy. It was to create that connection, and then that was, I think, I wonder if they did boo, and I might even... we might go back and like watch that Triple Mania at some point just to see what the reaction was, but it was very interesting It's a very interesting introduction to the character. And speaking of introducing ourselves to the character, should we, now that we've kind of covered the intro video package, jump into the temple itself? Return to the temple, if you will.
Great name. Great name.
And it took us. It was we thought of it so quickly. There was very little deliberation involved.
Oh yeah, that just happened just now. You just came up with that organically.
So we go to the dirty, dingy, hot, aggressive temple, as Matt Stryker is very fond of reminding us. And I will actually talk about the dirtiness of the temple later because I forgot about how dirty the temple was.
Yeah.
But we go and we meet our... We'll talk about the commentary team in a little bit, actually. We meet our ring announcer, Melissa Santos, who, you know, always a joy to have on the screen. And she introduces Dario Cueto. And he emerges with his banger theme song. And what does he tell? What does he tell the Lucha Libre fans?
Comes in and he talks about. He kind of has to set the stage, right? Because they're assuming that like you're not inherently watching this and familiar with Lucha Libre. So he sort of sets the stage of what Lucha Libre is and there's all this history, yeah. And then he talks about this is my temple. Talks about I think he says, here we fight with Connor, or we fight with honor, courage. Sometimes we fight a guy named Connor. I don't know. And then he talks about, and most importantly, and this will be a big theme with Dario Cueto, my favorite, islands.
And so I mean, let's take this moment to talk. Oh, actually, we should probably finish. So then he presents a briefcase, reveals that the briefcase has in it $100,000 and says the wrestler that impresses him the most on this inaugural episode of Lucha Underground will be receiving that $100,000. And while that is very exciting, let's just take a moment to talk about Dario Cueto because, I mean, I am going to assume that you feel the same way, but I love Dario Cueto. I mean, one of my favorite wrestling characters ever.
Oh, he's just the best. Like, he might be the best thing that comes out of this show, and this show has most of my favorite matches. Like, that's how great Dario Cueto is.
And I didn't realize how much of this stuck with me, but, like, the way that he says, I think about that a lot. Like, the time that when he goes, and my personal favorite, violence. Like, the way that he says that has just stuck with me, I mean, for years. He's perfect for this role. And the thing that I appreciate about him is, you know, this is 100%, I mean, he's an actor. And when I say that, you may be rolling your eyes thinking, well, Jacob, all wrestlers are actors. And while that is true, what I mean is that this is someone from outside of wrestling who was brought in to portray this character. And I think that was the right choice.
Not only was that the right choice, it's almost like absurd that more people didn't start doing it.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I think it's...
Wait, if you're going to have somebody that's not going to wrestle anyway, why would you not just grab this fantastic, like, little character actor and just take them all the way?
Oh, we should mention one thing. So when Dario Cueto comes out, he has the briefcase and he's wearing a suit, and around his neck he has a huge key on a string. And it is a very striking visual. We will not be talking too much about the key at this moment, but he is, you know, while people may be asking themselves questions about it, and their audience is certainly like, what's that big key doing? He does not talk about it at all. But I will say the key does become relevant later, and when it does, we will talk about it more. But when you picture Dario Cueto, think of, you know, a small weaselly man with slick back hair and a big key around his neck. That is the image that he kind of should present to you. Present to you.
He looks like Antonio Banderas' evil twin brother.
Yes, that is a perfect.
That is.
Yeah, that is a perfect comparison. And let's also, because I was about to say, mention something that the commentary team says. Let's talk about our commentary team, because we will be spending a lot of time talking about the commentary team for a couple of different reasons. On the play-by-play, we have former WWE wrestler Matt Stryker, who is fine, and we have Vampiro. Tell me about Vampiro.
Vampiro. To be honest with you, I'm not super familiar with Vampiro's in-ring stuff. He's a WCW guy. He spent a lot of
Is
time
he a
wrestling in
lucha legend?
Mexico.
Would you call him a lucha legend, Vampiro?
I wouldn't inherently say so,
I wouldn't either.
but the, that is one aspect of his character that, when he does it right, I really like. I like the fact that he can speak with authority about these older luchadors that they bring in. Like, even if they don't necessarily call him like this big legend, the fact that he's been around these
Oh yeah.
guys is really good for the story and for keying in the audience. There's actually a couple times, I don't know if you picked up on this, but where they have the commentary track and then they have a track that is very audibly recorded at another time.
Yeah.
Where
There were a
like
couple
he'll
jump
fill in
cuts in the
like,
commentary.
yeah, he'll fill in like, oh, and here's like another 3 or 4 sentences talking about the history of this guy in Mexico or the history of that guy, and great.
You can say a lot of bad things about Vampiro, and we will.
Oh yeah.
But one good thing that we must admit is that he has a tremendous repository of knowledge about wrestling and about lucha libre specifically, and all power to him. And the one line that I was going to reference is, of course, the traditions of lucha libre come from Mexico, and Vampiro makes the very specific delineation that Dario Cueto is not Mexican, he is Spanish. He is a colonizer, and that is not well received with the lucha libre community. And that is supposed to be one element of him that is a heel. And one thing that I will commend, the actor is Spanish as well, but one thing that he does, that he makes sure to do, is when he says gracias in his introduction. I'm not doing my accent right now. That was terrible, I know. But he goes, instead of saying gracias, he says gracias, like he does the lisp. And I thought that was a really good. I thought that was a great character detail.
Yeah, the delineation between him being a Spaniard and everybody else's origin doesn't get brought up a whole lot. It's just a little flavor palette, and there's a lot of little stuff like that. I think even the key, you could qualify that at this stage because we're so far along from the payoff that there's just like a lot of like little stuff that they put in there, just give you that distance between Dario and the rest, everybody else that comes out.
And I think that's one of the kind of great elements about Lucha Underground, because it's trying to be this more cinematic, immersive experience, is that in wrestling, and I don't mean this as a bad thing, in wrestling we're used to a lot of very overt storytelling. If something's going to be important, it will be telegraphed in a pretty significant way. Like, if someone's thinking about turning on someone else, like for example, if you have a tag team of 2 people and they're cutting a promo together, if one of them's going to turn on the other, you'll have like an extended shot at the end of the promo where they're staring at the other person, and it's not all that subtle, and that's fine. That doesn't make wrestling worse, because it draws on the ancient Greek traditions of theater, and you've got the characters like the Alazan and the Iron. I like classical studies, and that is not Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground it has that, but it also has immense layers of subtlety. It has immense layers of storytelling, and the character of Dario Cueto is just one of the many ways that is executed, and that is one of the reasons why we love him.
Yeah, Lucha Underground is not afraid of leaving things on the back burner indefinitely and just waiting for the right time to bring it forward. Which I think is one of the advantages of it.
The key doesn't become relevant for like they don't even start talking about it for like the whole first half of the season, right?
Pretty sure. I'm not sure when the first reference is.
That's like one of the best examples. I remember like in my first like Lucha Underground experience, I immediately spotted the key, and then I almost forgot about it when they brought it up again. But then when they did bring it up, the payoff was so worth it. Should we jump into the first match as they talk about here? They bring up the first match that we're going to see.
Just a quick mention before we get to that.
We have been talking about the first 3 minutes of Lucha Underground for 20 minutes. So.
Oh yeah. But to be, this is sort of establishing groundwork.
No, absolutely.
I did want to bring up the production. Because if once they the very first shot when they punch in on Melissa Santos, and when they start following Dario Cueto, it is a little bit different than what you'll see later on in Lucha Underground.
Tell me about that.
And that's a theme that you'll see throughout this, is the production style. They're still trying to sort of set their feet as far as how much is going to be traditional wrestling coverage, in terms of like hard cam and distance and
And
maintaining the 180 line and all of these other things. And you're seeing a couple of these shots that are like almost weirdly close to them and almost kind of intimate.
yeah,
You'll see them start to pull away from those as we go through the season. I just think that's kind of an interesting thing to see for the pilot episode.
so in the later kind of episodes of Lucha Underground, does it follow kind of a more traditional wrestling filmography or
A little
cinematography?
bit, like
Okay.
a little bit. Like the big thing that I think stood out to me was like usually when Melissa Santos is in the ring, you'll see the ropes in front of her. It'll be shot from outside the ring. And that's sort of also your establishing shot. Whereas with this, we punch in right on Melissa Santos instead of getting the vibe of like the arena.
Well, yeah, I mean that's something that totally went over my head. So thank you for pointing that out. And what?
It's because I've seen this like 4 times now.
Yeah.
That's like
I mean, well, hey, keep dropping those gems. I can't get enough of them. But so one thing that I really like about this first episode, as we're going to talk about with the matches, is I think they really cover a lot of ground with like what Lucha Underground is going to present in terms of what they give you with the matches. And so when I watched this episode for the first time, I found the first match to be extremely boring and the main event to be incredibly exhilarating. And I think that my enjoyment shifted considerably on this rewatch. I took a lot more out of the first match than I did the first time I watched it, and I had some gripes with the main event, but we'll get to those in time. Well, let's actually jump into the first match now. So this is a match that's really supposed to represent the foundations of Lucha Libre. Both competitors come from extensive luchador families. We've got Chavo Guerrero going up against Blue Demon Jr., and I mean, this match was, well, let's just talk. So the presentation, Blue Demon comes out of the top, Chavo comes out of kind of the ground level tunnel. I don't remember that ground level tunnel. Did they stop using that?
no, they keep using it, but I feel like they changed the set dressing around it a bit.
Okay.
That is something that you'll see a lot, is where sort of similar to like the AEW tunnels. Most of the time, the baby will come from the top, and the heel will come from below.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, obviously, because then the babyface
Yeah.
has a chance to walk through the crowd, and the heel goes straight to the ring. That's good.
Yeah.
I have some like distinct memories of like the crew walking down from the top, and that's why because like
Yeah.
in this match, it definitely seems to be like the heels are kind of more tweeners because we don't have a lot of set heels at this point. Come
Yes.
down from the kind of bottom tunnel, and then the baby faces all come from the top. But I had that memory of heels coming down from the top, so I wasn't sure how consistent they kept that.
Yes, they emerge through the smoke. It's so good, and it's so obvious.
So
You have your heroes descending, and it's just so good.
it's perfect. I mean, Lucha Underground's incredible. But Chavo comes out with this really excellent gear. I loved, he has this poncho, this black poncho with Guerrero emblazoned in red across it. And he's got this like black and red gear going on. And while that seems a little cliche, it just kind of, it worked perfectly. I thought it was beautiful gear. And Chavo's not someone that I mean, Chavo Guerrero, an extraordinarily mediocre wrestler on the best of days. And I have to say, I was really impressed by his performance. In my rewatch of this match, the early kind of hold work from them was just great. And I think they avoided the traps of just going with the big bombs early.
Oh yeah, it was really sort of. You'll get a line from Stryker later in the night where he talks about, we're going to incorporate a whole bunch of different styles, and we're not afraid to tell you where they come from. You can Google World of Sport. You can Google this or that. And there's a lot of embracing of different tones and paces within the wrestling matches. And this one being very sort of traditional.
And I think
sort of bare bones
something that
is
we should
great.
mention is that like this is relatively unique in terms of we didn't have AEW at this time. This was on TV was WWE, and was Impact televised at this point?
I'm assuming so. Yeah, 2014.
Like
I'm sure it was. I'm not an Impact expert.
Me neither. Impact is relatively stylistically diverse, but WWE, of course, is infamous for its kind of one overarching style, and so I think the emphasis on the style clashing was really, really key. A key element to promote, especially considering this was the time when the seeds of AEW were starting to be planted, and people were really looking for an alternative, not just creatively but stylistically. And this was, I mean, something that really hit that nail on the head in terms of what it gave us with this match. But I just gonna run through this match quickly, just kind of point out the major spots. Took note. Let me get my notes here. So we start out with like a great lockup between these two. Chavo actually gets the initial advantage and pushes Blue Demon into the corner. They have a little more hold work. Blue Demon gets him into a grounded head scissors, and Chavo just has a great flip through where he gets out of it. I thought it was just very crisp, perfectly executed. Blue Demon Jr. stomps on Chavo's hands, which, for someone who is supposed to be the babyface in this match, did not feel very babyface to me, considering this is our first match of the night. I don't know. I feel like I wanted a little bit more of a white meat situation going on here. How do you feel about that spot?
Yeah, it stood out to me when I watched it too. I was like, oh yeah, it kind of comes from sideways.
I was like, damn, dude.
The
what
other
the hell?
thing, this is actually, I think this is the first example of something we'll see throughout Lucha Underground, is that a babyface in Lucha Underground does stuff that's worse than like the most despicable heel in any other company, and is the greatest hero in the world for it.
Well, that's because, I mean, courage and honor is all great, but you have to remember the temple is really about violence.
Violence! That's
So
good.
Blue Demon, he gets the hand stomp, and then he proceeds to chef's kiss, botch a Hurricane Rana in a beautiful way. It just, but props to Chavo. He almost recovers it. Not quite. It's still a glaringly obvious botch, but like Chavo manages to go along with it to a degree that it doesn't seem completely ridiculous. But it's very clear
Between
that
Chavo and the editing, it's a good shot.
yeah, and they cut it just the right time as well. And that Hurricane Rana sends Chavo onto the outside, and when he comes up from the outside, when I first watched this, I thought, wow, Chavo has a lot of back hair. I didn't notice that when he made his entrance. And what I noticed is that he is completely covered in dirt, because the temple is dirty and disgusting. It's fucking gross. I would not want to wrestle in the temple. He flat backed on the ground. I don't think he even made it to the concrete. He was still on the mats, and it was so gross.
They really went the extra mile of making that place look lived in.
Ugh. Oh, it was so grody. So Blue Demon then immediately comes in with. Also, I love this. Matt Striker's. So Blue Demon's going to jump out of the ring, and Matt Striker, I think, thinks he's going to go for something over the ropes, and he goes, "Here we go with the high flying style of Lucha Libre," and Blue Demon just hits the ground and does a baseball slide dropkick. No air, no air at all, and you can tell Striker does not say anything after that. You can tell he's like pretty deflated about like having that call be so off base. But speaking of off base,
I mean, you just gotta wait like 20 minutes. Striker.
We're gonna yeah. I'm gonna actually go over the commentary in this match after I finish going over the spots. And then Blue Demon Jr., after getting Chavo back in the ring, connects with this slap that is just brutal. I mean, it's like Walter graced my TV 2 years before he was actually on TV. He grounds Chavo with this slap in the most believable way possible. Chavo just looks like he's been like hit in the head by a bus or something. It's perfect. But Chavo is able to get him on the outside with some kind of, I mean, he's trying to do like a monkey flip, but Blue Demon can't do that. So they just end up like putting him on the outside. It doesn't work. Blue Demon's not very mobile, and Chavo does connect with this beautiful crossbody. I have to say, Chavo's doing the serious heavy lifting in this match, and he's doing a great job. Blue Demon comes off the top rope with this senton that, I mean, like, he just falls off the top rope.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. It's kind of strange. The dynamic between the two characters is supposed to be one way, but you end up being really endeared to Chavo Guerrero for doing such a great job carrying that you're like, he's a good guy. He's doing his best. Like, it almost works backwards.
I mean, I think we're supposed to receive this because no one's really everyone that appears on the show, with the exception of someone in the next match, is tweener at worst, and so I think
Yeah.
Chavo is occupying that tweener role now, and then we'll get a segment later that kind of cements something that happens, but Chavo's going for something off the top. It looks like he's going for a Hurricane Rana off the top. But Blue Demon catches him in a power bomb. That's what it's called on commentary. It's not a power bomb.
Yeah.
They just both fall off the top rope together. And then Blue Demon twists him into an arm-trapped sharpshooter, which I don't know if that move has a real name. I assume it does because it seemed to be pretty hyped up on commentary, even though they didn't call it anything. And that is enough to tap Chavo out. What are your thoughts on this match before we talk about Vampiro?
The match as a whole, I thought it was a good, like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get going. Like, it was a very good hold you by the hand and take you through almost how wrestling works.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
And I liked that I didn't really know, and this is a pattern tonight, like on this episode very specifically. I feel like all three matches, I did not feel the finish coming when it came.
Yeah.
Which is something that you'll see not all the time in Lucha Underground, but a good amount of the time, the end of the match will sneak up on you, which is refreshing.
I like that in Lucha Underground matches don't always end with finishers. Like, there was only one finisher to end a match in this entire show, and it really worked, and we'll talk about that obviously when we get there. But I gotta say, watching this match again, so watching Lucha Underground for the first, like, having this be my first wrestling experience, I remember just, like, they told me on commentary, Blue Demon is a legend. They said it over and over again. So everything that he did, I was just receiving as like, oh, this must be a smart, good wrestling thing to do. And watching it back, I mean, it is clear that Dario later calls it the twilight of his career. I mean, this is the midnight of his career. Like, this man should not be wrestling right now.
Yeah, it is. It's not hard to watch, but it is a little bit kind of like, man, like it's a little deflating, I think, to watch, where you're like.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, even not knowing much about Lucha Libre, I knew the name Blue Demon, so it was sort of great to have that there. Anyway, you're almost more forgiving because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great name drop. And like, there was the hold work that he did was great. It was super intelligent. And one thing that I found interesting was not only was Chavo carrying this match, it seemed like he was calling it. I remember they were doing the test of strength spot, and Blue Demon was not talking. And Chavo's head was not in shot, and so I have to think that Chavo was calling the next spot, which would be really interesting if that was the case.
And it's sort of against type.
But if that's true, I mean, that was smart. He definitely accounted for Blue Demon's weaknesses in regards to his mobility. The Hurricane Rana early on, the botched one, is the only time that Blue Demon left his feet in any meaningful way. And what I mean by that is the senton and the powerbomb from the top rope were both times where he just, like, left the top rope. He didn't jump off of it. He just, like hopped down.
Yeah, it kind of looked like the equivalent of the Lita Moonsault.
Yeah. Although that's actually impressive. But yeah, good match overall. Let's talk about Vampiro. Let's get into Vampiro. Let's do a little bit of Vampiro action here. Holy shit, he's so bad. He's so bad. Give me your Vampiro thoughts.
In this match, it actually didn't bother me as much as I'm gonna spoil the next match. It really bothers me in the next match.
I had the opposite experience, so I'm very excited to hear your take on the next match.
In this match, honestly, the thing that stuck out to me was just him sort of dogging on the Guerreros.
Yeah.
Where he talks about, because you hear the name Chavo Guerrero, and I think anybody who's sort of an average wrestling fan is going to be like, oh, you mean Eddie's cousin? And they do mention Eddie, but they bring it up in a way where it's not like, they make it seem as if Chavo and Eddie are both part of this lineage, as opposed to Chavo being in Eddie's shadow.
Well, I would say, so when I watched this the first time, that actually really helped me. Like the sensation that I got, and I didn't know anything about Eddie Guerrero. I did not know the name Eddie Guerrero. I was just had it explained to me that the Guerrero family is this long lineage. There are a lot of people who did very well in wrestling, and Eddie was Vampiro's friend. Like, that's what I got from that initially. And while I feel like that was kind of, I agree with you that maybe, like, in terms of popularity of various Guerreros, Eddie did not get enough spotlighting. I think that in terms of warming up a first-time viewer to wrestling, this did a good job of just establishing why this match is happening. Like, Blue Demon Jr., it's right in the name. He's of this tradition, and Vampiro explaining the Guerrero family, I think, helped a lot.
And you get these sort of, this sort of impression that these are two almost warring families. Like, even though there's no direct mention of it, but you get this idea that these guys go back, and maybe their fathers go back, and etc. Which is one of my favorite elements of Lucha Libre as it's presented in Lucha Underground, is this thing. It's like, yeah, we've been in a blood feud for 30 years.
Yeah, like the dynasty element is really, really nice. So there was two calls actually from Vampiro that were particularly offensive to me. And the first one, and I think the most obvious one, is Matt Striker is talking about the advantages of the competitors in the match. And so Blue Demon is a much larger man than Chavo Guerrero. And so Matt Striker says, Chavo Guerrero enjoys a significant speed and agility advantage here compared to Blue Demon. Vampiro, what kind of advantage does Blue Demon enjoy? And this is the softest of all softballs. Like, can you, like, I in my head, I didn't think he was going to, like, I didn't even remember this exchange. So I was like, oh, well, obviously he's going to fill in the other side of it. He's going to say Blue Demon enjoys the size and power advantage. Somehow, Vampiro misses the question completely, and he says, anything and everything. He brings all of Lucha Libre. There's no rule book. And first of all, that's wrong. There is a rule book, because immediately before this, Rick Knox had been counting them in the corner.
Yeah.
But it was like,
yeah.
It's like, it's the
big
basics.
theme of Lucha Underground is Matt Striker sending up an alley-oop, and Vampiro just smacking it away. Just doesn't want it.
And the other example of this in this match was when the submission was being put on, and Matt Striker said, Vampiro, what is Chavo experiencing right now? And as a color commentator, your response should be to specifically highlight the parts of the body that are being targeted and describe to the audience the physical sensation of what that feels like. So, for example, if I saw a wrestler being put in a chokehold, I would say, like, at this moment, he feels the blood pooling in his fingers. It can't get to his brain. He's starting to feel numbness in his extremities. His vision is going cloudy. He's seeing stars in his eyes. If this goes on much longer, he's going to be forced to tap or he's going to pass out. That's what I would say.
Yeah, Vampiro, that's the Matt Striker version of it.
Vampiro just says, and I quote, pain. Hella pain. Which, like, yeah, obviously. Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, good old Vampiro. You mentioned that, actually. I can't remember if it was this match, but there is a Matt Striker call where he specifically says, and ladies and gentlemen, if you feel the bone in your forearm, that is what's digging under the chin right now. You can imagine the immense pressure that brings.
Yes, exactly. That is so good.
Yeah, that is he does stuff like that. It's like, where if you feel that right there, like, imagine that, and like he communicates it a lot.
Next time I do color commentary, I'm gonna just say, like, oh, he's in pain, hella pain, and I'm gonna see how the person in my ear reacts to that. So up next, now that the match is finished, we are introduced to this is our first formal look at this, is the kind of the way that Lucha Underground approaches segments. And so we have Conan and Dario Cueto in Dario Cueto's office discussing some stuff. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yes. Conan comes in, and there's actually sort of a funny exchange. And I think you could tell it's not scripted because of this. Where Dario Cueto says something about, like, I'm thrilled to have you working for me. And it's like, I'm not sure about all this working for you business. But I am interested in some of that money you got. Which implies that Conan doesn't understand how jobs work.
I thought that was so funny. He's like,
Like,
I'm not gonna work for you, but I will give you I will give you a service, and you can exchange it. And you can pay me for that service.
yeah. It was,
Conan never he
yeah.
never took econ.
Yeah, and God bless Dario Cueto. Does not crack at all. Just keeps going. Like, I can't imagine continuing after that response. Like, I can't imagine, like, staying in character after that.
So they basically the Conan is here to not only establish himself, but establish his overall purpose in Lucha Underground, which is to serve as the manager for the person that he says is the greatest fighter in the world, a man that we will come to know as Prince Puma. And Prince Puma, you may not know this, but he actually traces his bloodline directly back to the fiercest renegade. Oh, we forgot to mention this. Lucha Legend, Lucha Libre, Lucha Legend all goes back to the original 7 Aztec tribes. And it's not just the Aztecs, it's specifically the 7 Aztec tribes. Excuse me. And Prince Puma comes from the fiercest renegade Aztec tribe, and his spirit animal is, you guessed it, this is a quote, his spirit animal is, you guessed it, a jaguar. And so I looked it up, and pumas and jaguars are different animals. That's not the same. It's not the same animal.
Yeah, they basically just mean cat. Because we'll see later a couple other members of this tribe, like much later down the line. And yeah, almost none of them are jaguars.
Like, I have to say, if I were to guess Prince Puma's spirit animal, I would guess a puma. Because it's his name.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was very silly. But it's very silly. But I should clarify, it's very good. You know, he does a lot of work talking about how not only is Prince Puma from Los Angeles, he's actually from Boyle Heights, which is where Lucha Underground is filmed. And he says, you know, this upstart kid, he has so much talent. He's directly connected to the foundations of Lucha Libre, and he's going to be a big star in this company. And Dario Cueto says, well, we'll see about that, because I have actually signed the hottest free agent in this business, and his name is Johnny Mundo. And that sets up our main event for the night.
It's a great main event.
Well, what do you think of this segment overall? Like the presentation, the Dario Cueto and Conan's interaction as characters, two ostensibly villainous characters, introducing the stakes of the main event of the night.
I like this segment a lot, even with Conan's sort of off-kilter takes, as we should call them. It's lit kind of like a soap opera, which is kind of interesting. Like, you'll see there's like a beam of light that hits Dario's face that comes out of nowhere and makes him like really soft. Again, like weird little production things that I noticed. We won't see that so much going in the future. I did want to mention they also make a connection between the Aztec tribes decapitating people and the nature of the lucha mask as a symbol of that, which is the best explanation for a luchador's mask I've ever heard.
I have to admit, like, that is the explanation I got for it, and then I kind of never questioned it again, and I don't really know the actual origins of the mask, but I like that one, so that's my headcanon now.
Yeah, that is what it is, as they say. They were like, look, we're going to keep running out of guys if we keep cutting their heads off. Should they wear masks or something? And then we could, yeah, we'll do that.
Well, that was cool. So we had, we then cut back to the ring and started to set up our next match. The first thing I noticed is someone set up Vamp's mic wrong because it keeps peaking. And it's really, really distracting. And so, do you want to tell us about our next match, our semi-main event, if you will?
Yes, our next match is going to be between from the open road, Son of Havoc, one of who will become one of the most endearing characters in all of Lucha Underground.
Yes.
And in this, he is just the most cliched, mustache twirling, evil, bad guy I've ever seen in my life, and it's great. And Sexy Star, who is there, you know.
Sorry, we have to just jump in. Obligatory. Fuck Sexy Star. You piece of shit. Okay, now we can continue.
We're gonna
on
have
with
to
our
do that
analysis.
a few times in this.
And whenever Sexy Star comes up, sorry, we should clarify. For those of you who don't know, Sexy Star is a garbage person who likes to injure people in the ring for real, because when she doesn't get her way, and she's not good.
Yeah.
And when I found out about this, it saddened me immensely because she was one of my favorite baby faces in Lucha Underground, and then I found out that she was this not good person, and that really bothered me. But yeah, so we actually get a little. We get Son of Havoc, who's already in the ring, and then we get a little video package about Sexy Star, describing that she's come from a very troubled background. She had suffered a lot of abuse and contemplated suicide, but then she found professional wrestling, and it saved her. It gave her a passion. It gave her a fire to not just fight for herself, but to fight for women all over the world and kind of give them a symbol and an icon of strength to look up to. And it's a super uplifting story, and I remember when I saw it for the first time, I was like, okay, well, I love this character. And that's quite a contrast to how I feel now. But let's just, with the obligatory fuck Sexy Star in there, let's just take it as it is and receive her as a babyface.
Yeah. It is, I do love the line at the very end of the promo. Every woman is sexy. Every woman is a star. Very fun. Although I love the fact that they forced her to do the promo in English and then gave her subtitles anyway.
And I don't think she needed the subtitles. I think she was fine.
She was fine, but she clearly would have been a lot more comfortable. Just, I feel like it would have resonated more if she just did the promo in Spanish and they kept the subtitles.
I think that's something that they got. I don't remember if they got more comfortable with this, but I feel like that's something that they did later.
Yes. There is one character that almost exclusively promos in Spanish that we'll get to later.
Yeah, well.
I'm not sure when Sexy Star makes the switch.
You could say that I have no fear of when that... Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, there's 0 M.
We'll talk about that later. That's in... He shows up in 2 episodes, right? Or is that next episode?
Because he might be next episode.
I forget. I'm very excited to get into that match because that is one of my favorite matches. So one thing to note about this is that Son of Havoc is the first person to be booed in Lucha Underground. Both Chavo Guerrero, even though he was kind of playing a tweener, and Blue Demon Jr. were both met with immense cheers. Son of Havoc is thoroughly booed. I think even before he cuts his promo. But so Sexy Star comes down to the ring. Son of Havoc picks up the microphone and says, "I'm not wrestling a woman. You get out of my ring. Take a count out." And Sexy Star says, "Okay." And she walks out of the ring. And Son of Havoc turns his back, letting the audience know, "Haha, I will win by count out." And Sexy Star comes in the ring, rushes him from behind, nails him with the big forearm to the back. And Son of Havoc built very John Silver-like in his build. It's been a while since I've seen the M-Dog wrestle, and I have to say, I loved watching him here. I mean, carrying this match for Sexy Star. She started out...
Have you seen a lot of Son of Havoc's non-Son of Havoc stuff? Because I have not.
I've seen one match of his, and it was when he was wrestling as Matt Cross at All In, the original All In on the pre-show against Sammy Guevara, I believe. No, wait, it was either Sammy Guevara or MJF. I can't remember.
You'll be amazed by how many names we talk about show up in AEW. Just amazed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm very excited to get into all the people that are going to be here. But one of my favorite is Son of Havoc, and I was really enjoying all of this. Sexy Star goes in with these terrible looking strikes, just this very for someone who was in the promo package, she's doing these really, really nice, sharp-looking strikes. Yeah. And then when the match starts, she just is flailing her arms like a toddler, and I'm like, what? Why? Like, I just saw you punch good. Why are you punching bad now?
I like that she gets him from behind, and she doesn't do a move. She just whacks him. The least payoff for an attack from behind I've ever seen in my life.
Especially considering that literally 3 seconds later he has the advantage back when he just shoves her halfway across the ring. I mean, he is just yoked to the gills, even though he's a tiny little boy. So he gets the early advantage, goes for a big lion salt, springboard off the second rope. Springboard moonsault at the second rope, misses. Sexy Star goes for a wheelbarrow move, but he turns it into a wheelbarrow facebuster and just slams her face on the mat. But a little while later, Star is able to make the recovery, hits a really nice crossbody, and then after a short little exchange, Son of Havoc picks her up, huge backbreaker, end of the match. Vampiro says that he pulls the tights. He does not. And the match is
looks
over.
like he's trying and then realizes that he can't. Really?
It looks. I think he realizes that if he tries,
for it.
he's like, my finger will be entirely in her butt crack. So he decides to avoid that. But tell me, not only so start with your. I want to hear your thoughts on this match, which was very short and very medium, and then I want to hear your Vampiro gripes.
So this match, it does set up something I like about Lucha Underground is when they. Well, first of all, it's the first intergender match in the show.
Yes. Oh, that is something that we have not. Yes. First intergender match. Very big. Very awesome.
Yeah, very big. And it illustrates something that I really like is that they don't. There's no sort of like weird strength handicap. Like Sexy Star is not playing it as if they are on equal footing physically. She has to work around him.
In terms of raw power, like it's like. In terms of, like, wrestling ability, they are comparable, but in terms of, like, they're not like, oh, this man with, like, 24-inch biceps is just as strong as this person who, has, like, a solid 7 inches of muscle circumference,
And to be fair, Sexy Star is jacked.
Absolutely. It's just that Son of Havoc is at least twice her size.
Yeah, he is also jacked. It's almost like they got somebody who is on scale with her as far as like, oh, she's bigger than the average woman, so let's get a guy who's equivalently bigger than the average guy. But yeah, we get that, and it really sets this sort of dynamic of how they're going to play intergender matches going forward, where it's a lot about technique and the strategy of it, and that's what makes it interesting as opposed to just... what I would consider sort of like the humanity nature of it, or just the everybody's exactly the same and it doesn't matter, which are I think the two extremes that they could have gone with, and they didn't do that, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah,
this match was it was a little bit of a. I think it was the most character-based match of the night.
Absolutely. I want to hear about. Tell me your Vampiro thoughts. You said you had a couple of really significant Vampiro gripes.
So this is something that's going to happen every single time Sexy Star shows up. Because Vampiro loves Sexy Star so much that everything that he talks about in every other match no longer applies. Right, so you'll see in some, say, your general babyface has this inspiring story. Matt Stryker's breaking it down. Vampiro will be the first guy to be in there and be like, yeah, but this is a fight, brother. It's all about doing damage, and it's all about violence. I don't want to hear none of that. Sexy Star comes out, and he is like the champion of the women. He is just... She's so inspirational, bro. She's all this, bro. She's going to be the best, bro. It is like such a flip every time she shows up. It's not so bad now because it's the pilot episode, so you're still sort of getting used to Vampiro, but... as we go forward, it'll be just like nails on chalkboard for me.
I have to say, I noticed that, but it didn't like stick in my mind as like, now that you pointed out, like obviously that's really weird, especially considering how established his character is as an announcer. So I will definitely be keeping an ear out for that, and that is just that's very very on brand, very on brand for Vampiro in terms of being off brand.
Yeah. He's consistently inconsistent.
Yeah. So after this, is there another segment? Let me look. Oh, yes.
I believe there is.
This is Sad Chavo time. And we get a tease of something very exciting coming next episode. And so Chavo, he's sad, he's disappointed. He does not get to say, he does not have any lines. He just sits there while Dario lectures him. And Dario says, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you come from this lineage of wrestlers. I wanted you to retire Blue Demon Jr., and you didn't. Now I have to bring in someone who will, but I might not be able to control them, and that will be really bad.
And he specifically says 1,000 deaths will come for all of us.
Yeah, which is, love Dario Cueto. That line is like, it stuck out as like kind of doesn't fit well in this promo, but I understand that that's like, they wanted to say that, and that's fine. Sometimes you gotta just fit stuff in there. So we will, obviously, 1,000 deaths will come for us all next episode, and I'm very excited to talk about that. But then we move on to our match of the night, and also main event. The previously teased Prince Puma versus Johnny Mundo, and Matt Striker has been bringing this up occasionally, but remember that the wrestler who impresses Dario Cueto the most will receive $100,000. And so while both and Vampiro also noted after Sexy Star's loss that he thinks she should get the $100,000, even though she got her ass kicked.
I remember what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, now that you mention it, does seem to kind of ring very true. But our last two competitors who will be given a chance to impress Dario Cueto enough for that $100,000 make their appearance. First, we have Johnny Mundo, who you may know as John Morrison or Johnny Impact or Johnny Nitro or a million other Johnnies. Did I say Johnny Impact?
Everything except Johnny Wrestling.
Yes,
the one that he doesn't get.
That's another guy. Maybe they'll have a match one day. Who knows? Now it could be a possibility in these next couple months, but let's not get off track. So yeah, Johnny Mundo comes out very nice. He has his whole. I mean, his look it never changes, but it's still perfect. The long coat with all the I don't even know how to describe it. Like
dazzling.
Yeah, bedazzling fluffiness. It just looks like a very comfortable and fun coat to wear. He's got some great sunglasses. He gets up on the turnbuckle. He's got his beautiful abs, and he says Johnny Mundo to the camera, which is that is your name, yes. And
the best of all of his names.
Prince Puma comes out. Prince Puma, who is known to most people as Ricochet. Prince Puma, who I don't believe is in real life directly related to any Aztecs, but
yeah, my boy's from Kentucky.
Yeah, he comes down to the ring and he's got his great yellow mask, and this is something that I've been excited to share. So Prince Puma, Ricochet, as most people know, is not very good at talking. He's not very good at cutting promos. But I did not understand how wrestling worked when I first watched this. So there have been a couple instances, because Conan always talks for Prince Puma, and there's a couple instances later on where it's kind of teased that maybe Prince Puma will talk, and he never gets the chance to, except for I think in season 3 he does.
He gets there, yeah.
But I remember being like, oh, he doesn't. They're saving him talking, so he must be really good at it. And that's not true and not how it works. The reason why Conan talks for him is for a very good reason. So one thing that I noticed is Puma does a little Eddie Guerrero taunt in his entrance. He shakes the shoulders a little bit like that. But why don't you want to run down this match for us before we kind of give our overall takes?
Well, as far as a beat-by-beat thing, it's just a lot of one-upsmanship between a couple of good old-fashioned babies. I don't have notes on like every spot.
I can call out some of the big spots if you...
Yeah. But that is definitely the story of the match is Johnny Mundo telling the audience, okay, Johnny Mundo can still do all of the Johnny Mundo things, because they mentioned he's been away from wrestling for 3 years at this point. I'm not sure if that's accurate or if that's just something that they're saying. And it's also introducing the audience to this character of Prince Puma and all of the things that he can do, which, next to a guy who's one of the most athletic guys in the wrestling business, that is Johnny Mundo, the fact that Prince Puma still comes off as absurdly athletic, it's a kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, so my interest in Ricochet kind of bottomed out after he went to the main roster of WWE. Like, Ricochet used to be easily my favorite wrestler in the world, and when I started watching Lucha Underground, and now I don't even think about him anymore. And so getting to like be reintroduced to what Ricochet can do was like, or sorry, I should call him Prince Puma. Being reintroduced to what Prince Puma can do was a really refreshing experience for me. And one of the first moments of that is, you know, they take a little time, they do a little like talking with each other before they kind of really get into it. And the first kind of significant move that happens is Johnny Mundo comes in with a shoulder tackle, and immediately, Prince Puma, it's like he levitates to his feet. He bounces up so quickly. It's so impressive.
Almost not a kip up. It's like he just bounces directly to his feet.
Yeah, like you don't even see his like body like twist in the way that a kip up happens. It's like he just is on his feet all of a sudden. Puma does this cool. I wrote down cool taunt from Puma. I don't remember what. Oh, that's when. I'm sorry. He does this cool thing where Johnny Mundo is launched to the outside. Prince Puma, it looks like he's going to go for something on the outside, but it's clear that Johnny Mundo has scouted it. But instead of actually going for the move, Prince Puma bounces off the ropes, handspring, leaps back in the ring, does a superhero entrance in the middle of the ring, and it is awesome. Johnny Mundo does this really
pose
cool
on the Lucha Seal.
Oh yeah. That's what I liked, how central it was. It was really like he was really connecting himself to the kind of whole lucha tradition thing, the whole Aztec tribe situation. Mundo does this kick a little while later where it looks like he like floats in the air. It's really, really impressive. He just kind of like shuffles his feet and like just like a I'm not sure like the wrestling term for it. But he spins around, does a cool kick to the head. This awesome delayed springboard senton from Puma. It's almost like an Arabian press senton, but not quite. And they brawl to the outside, brawl over to the announce table. Puma does this thing where like he kind of comes around and does like a half, like, you know, like the setup for an arm drag where like you spin around the guy, like lock the first arm, lock the second arm, and then pull around for the arm drag. He does that, but instead of actually pulling into the arm drag, he pulls himself up and connects with an enziguri, and I thought that was great. He does his iconic moonsault, but lands on his feet when Johnny Mundo rolls out of the way and leaps up immediately into a standing shooting star press, which was great. Mundo goes for a move that I always call the Revolution, but when Mundo does it, it's called Moonlight Drive. And it is blocked the first time. I'll talk about commentary later. I have a couple notes for that. Mundo goes for his finisher, El Fin de Mundo, misses, and then is able to hit it. I actually think he goes for it 3 times and is finally able to hit it on the 3rd time. They're pretty spaced out over the course of the match. Yeah. And finally gets the win. The 2 false memories that I had, I thought that Sexy Star won, and I thought that Prince Puma won, but that is not what happens. Johnny Mundo able to get the big win with El Fin de Mundo, and just great work from all these guys. Prince Puma, I'm going to mention this again with the commentary stuff, but Prince Puma hits this awesome springboard Meteora. He gets so much height off of it and just really comes down on Johnny's chest. It looks brutal.
Yeah. There's a lot of... You could talk about high spots with these guys till the cows come home. And we've already talked till the cows have come home, left for work, called in sick, came back home. But I forgot what point I was going to make.
Something about their high spots, something about this match.
What I really appreciated was, this is something that you won't hear a lot, was Prince Puma's character work. Something happens when Ricochet puts on that mask where he gets a lot more animated to compensate. And suddenly he is an actual, like... That's the giant criticism that everybody makes of Ricochet, is that he doesn't necessarily have a character. Prince Puma is a character that he is very comfortable inhabiting. There's another wrestler who's in a similar situation that will get introduced next season, who I think does the same thing, where the mask helps them so immeasurably with their characters that it blows my mind that they ever took it off.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, like, I think that there's, like, that's, like, I almost want to say the problem with being a groundbreaking, like, athlete. Like, there was a part of me that was, I don't know, I don't know if it's, like, a, 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 like I guess, I mean, I felt so disappointed by Ricochet's time in WWE that I kind of wanted to go back to this match and be like, oh, I over-exaggerated how great it was so that I could kind of appreciate people like Sammy Guevara and Pac a little bit more. But no, I mean, Prince Puma is just as groundbreakingly and mind-blowingly athletic as I remembered. So this match was truly incredible.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Commentary stuff. I have two notes. They're both Vampiro. Vampiro, they're talking about Conan, and Vampiro has this line where he says, if there is anybody that is evil, it is Conan. Which, an understatement is it is certainly an understatement, but like, you're telling me that of all the people in the world, the person who represents pure evil to you is Conan? Someone who is, like, I'm not saying that he's not a heel, but all we have seen from him so far is him being, like, a good trainer and good mentor for Prince Puma. Like, I don't know if that is the beat that, like, you can say, like, oh, I'm not sure about him, but I don't know if you want to call him pure evil right now.
Yeah, there is this sense that I honestly, it might be a lapse in my memory. I don't remember Conan ever actually being a heel at Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I don't remember. I was thinking the same thing. Like, the way they set it up, I was always waiting for him to turn on Prince Puma, and I don't remember it ever happening.
I'm pretty sure it's just in Vampiro's head that he's a heel.
There's a lot of stuff that's just in Vampiro's head. Like the fact that he's someone that is a star. But anyway, I was just thinking about play his fucking music. That is exactly what I was thinking of. But the other thing is, this blew my mind in a bad way. Prince Puma hits that springboard Meteora, and I was thinking of saving this just until now, but I wanted to mention during the spots thing. And Vampiro says, I don't even know what to call that. And that surprised me because, one thing that you can say about Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma is that they're both innovators. They're both kind of groundbreaking athletes, both in their own ways. At this point, in chronologically when Lucha Underground is happening, all of Johnny Mundo's innovations had kind of already happened, and he had kind of served his time as an innovator and done a lot of really great stuff. And this is really Prince Puma's time to break some ground. But the Meteora is not a groundbreaking move. In fact, I would hazard to say that Vampiro, in all likelihood, probably has been on the receiving end of more than one Meteora over the course of his wrestling career. And it really shocked me that he did not, know what to call it. It feels like a pretty simple thing.
See, it's actually great psychology. See, because the reason why he got hit with those meteors every time was because every time they went for one, he stood there going, "What is that called again?" And then just got hit.
That's so true. Yeah, I didn't think of that on a... Yeah, Vampiro actually has deep psychology.
Yeah, he's always thinking 10 steps ahead.
So overall, what were you feeling about this match? What were you feeling about the presentation? And then we'll talk about the post-match.
The match was good. Not... I wasn't mind blown by it rewatching it this time, which
I
again
felt the same way.
I think is going to be a big thing with me just because I've seen these matches a lot at this point, where I'm much more interested with where they're going with the characters, and I was much more interested in this one with presenting both of these guys as probably the outside of Sexy Star, the whitest meat baby faces that they have.
And also
having that be the first main event.
Without a doubt, the top guys at this point, not just the fact that they're in the main event, but all the presentation around them, Conan calling Prince Puma the greatest fighter in the world, Johnny Mundo being referred to as the hottest free agent. It's all very designed to kind of really boost their presentation. And, one thing I think that I noticed from a critical perspective, I've praised this match a lot, is it feels like there are times when Prince Puma is struggling to work around the mask. I think there are some times where it's getting in his way. He's still kind of learning to adjust to it. There are a couple examples. The one that stuck out to me the most is he has Johnny Mundo in the corner, and he goes onto the apron and is looking to do this enziguri from behind. and it just is. He doesn't really put any snap on it, and it feels like it's like a vision thing. Like he doesn't. He's having a hard time really gauging exactly where Johnny Mundo's head is, and if he kind of had a better sense of it, he would kind of snap his leg out a little bit more. But he definitely adjusts to it perfectly because he just has classic after classic in Lucha Underground.
Oh yeah, particularly in season 1, I feel like they really give him a lot of spotlight in this season.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this all continues. But let's talk about the post match. And I will just say, we're still getting used to this whole podcast thing, so we will try to streamline this as much as possible in the future and just make ourselves, hone our skills, make ourselves better at podcasting. We want to deliver the best product possible to satiate the Lucha Legion, which is the name that I have decided I'm going to call our listeners. How do you feel about that?
I suppose you could also call them the true believers.
That I do like True Believers, but someone already took that, and that's Lucha Underground themselves. I feel like we need our own thing. But anyway, post-match comes out. Dario Cueto, incredible theme. Theme song's not very present in Lucha Libre. Like, they happen, but I don't really think of any of them as being memorable besides Dario.
There is one.
Is it Mil Muertes? That's the only other exception I can think of.
Oh, homie. Pentagon's Lucha Underground theme is the best theme ever.
Well, we will cover that when it comes to it. The only two that really stick in my mind are Mil Muertes and Dario, but he comes out with the briefcase, the $100,000 once again, and he says that the man who has impressed him, the man who has gotten the win in the main event is Johnny Mundo, and says that the money is his, and Johnny goes to take the money. Dario snaps the briefcase shut and pulls it away. Johnny laughs like, ha, carny shit.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. And then goes to kind of get the briefcase. Dario tries to go out of the ring, and at this point, Johnny's like, okay, hold on, what the fuck is going on? And starts trying to wrestle the briefcase from him. But out of nowhere, a gang of 3 men materialize at ringside. Two who are very short, and one who is very large. And we have got the 2 men who are in the ring, who we will come to know as Mr. Cisco and Castro Cortez, respectively, absolutely beat the crap out of these 2 men who have just wrestled this exhaustive main event. They beat the crap out of Johnny Mundo. They beat the crap out of Prince Puma. They hit a shatter machine on Johnny Mundo, which I was happy to see. And then we see... Well, actually, wait, they might hit it on Prince Puma, because by ringside, we have a just tremendously large man. It's Ezekiel Jackson, right, Big Rick?
I'm not familiar with his work outside of Lucha Underground.
I believe...
I just see Big Rick.
Let me make sure that I'm right about this. Just going to double check. Very professional, going to do this in the middle of the podcast. Yes, okay, Ezekiel Jackson.
Pull that up, Jamie.
Excuse me, brother. It's Jay Cub. We're on the podcast, dude. So Ezekiel Jackson, who was infamously the last ECW champion, because they took it away from Christian at the last moment.
Curious that he attacks Johnny Mundo.
He does attack Johnny Mundo, and by the way, Johnny Mundo, so he picks him up, he grabs him in a choke. I thought he was going to go for a choke slam, but he goes for a Uranagi instead. He just grabs him by the throat, and they cut to a shot of just Johnny Mundo's face, and he's got his tongue out. He's doing the whole Jabba the Hutt thing. I love it. And he's gets picked up and just driven into the mat with this Uranagi. It is beautiful. And this was my first exposure to Big Rick, which is what we come to know of this character. And I'm very... This is one of the times where, this is something that I really want to go back, because all of the discourse that I have heard since is that Ezekiel Jackson is considered to not be a very good wrestler. And I only have positive memories of Big Rick, so I'm very curious to see... how my experience with him changes as we continue this project. But suffice it to say, the 3 men that have invaded, who are going to be known as the Crew, stand tall, and Dario Cueto presents Big Rick with the $100,000 as our show goes off the air. Give me all your thoughts on this final angle and on the episode as a whole.
Final angle. I really liked the way that this went down. A lot of beatdowns, post-match beatdowns, just sort of happen really quickly, and this was kind of drawn out. Johnny Mundo like recovers in the middle of it and starts trying to fight back, gets beaten down again. Prince Puma kind of does the similar thing. And the two guys in the main event still feel like big deals because they're still putting up a fight after the main event, which is a great touch. And then this is actually kind of a character moment for Dario that isn't super consistent with what we'll see later, where he is like is shown to be greedy, but it is strange to see it as his primary motivation in this situation.
In terms of like keeping, I mean, I think that, I have a hard time figuring out like what was his motivation. It just seems like unnecessarily dickish to be like, I'm going to give out $100,000 and then be like, psych, losers, I was going to give it to my gang this whole time. I think that a much more like promising thing would have been like a little bit more like Eric Bischoff 3-minute warning situation where like he is like, hey, I have this gang of assholes who will beat you down if I say so, so you better stay on my good side. And then, because one of the big things about this is that he felt that Johnny Mundo needed to be taught a lesson, and then have that be the in-character reason. I mean, it make like why he receives the beatdown,
Yeah, I think the implication was that he wanted anybody but Johnny Mundo to win the money.
You don't think it was going to go to Big Rick regardless?
I think if Puma had won, he might have given money to Puma.
That is interesting. You know what? We should, once we blow up and become the top charting podcast, we should actually contact Dario Cueto's actor and ask him about that. I wonder.
Yeah. Like, what was your want going into this?
Yeah. Tell me about who Dario Cueto was. What was his childhood? Actually, we will learn more about his childhood, but that's
we're gonna learn a bunch about that. That's gonna be not too many questions about that.
So what is your overall verdict on this maiden voyage, as Matt Stryker calls it, into Lucha Underground? What do you think of the temple? What do you think of the matches? What do you think of our subpar commentary team? Like, overall, how are you feeling right now as we move into episode 2 next week?
Well, I think...
Or sooner than next week, depending on how frequently we want to turn these out.
Yeah, whatever pace. What are you doing tomorrow? So... I will mention the commentary team. I almost don't want to call them subpar because as much as Vampiro can drag us down, I think Matt Stryker adds so much to it.
That's so true. I mean, Matt Stryker, really phenomenal on this show. I've heard that he's not great other places, but Matt Stryker is really he adds a lot to this show, and I think he does a fantastic job of serving both as a play-by-play and a color commentator to kind of make up for Vampiro's weaknesses.
Yeah, he does and he walks the line of insider and like for those of you at home, like he brings people in a lot, which I really like. We should figure out what are we gonna do for like a rating system on these episodes. That what we gotta figure out.
Let's let it progress naturally. I think also it wouldn't be fair to rate this one considering this is kind of our baseline. It's hard to kind of give this.
And I think
rating.
It's a good baseline. It does feel like a solid introduction.
Absolutely. And we're going to tighten everything up. I think based on what we're looking at here, we will return to you either next week or maybe even sooner, depending on how our schedules look. I know that both of us love watching this show, so it'll be hard to keep us away from it. I think we'll try to keep these two around an hour. We tacked on an extra 20 minutes here because we were kind of doing our little preface. But I think that
a lot of background, and a lot of like covering generalities about Lucha Underground as a whole.
But either way, it was fantastic to have this maiden voyage with hopefully our legions of Lucha listeners, and I am, make sure to drop a 5-star rating if you can, leave a positive review if you want to. We will be getting a social media up and running soon, probably a Twitter. Unlikely that we will branch out into Instagram, but perhaps we will see. And we'll have an email set up as well, but most of those developments will occur in our next episode. So keep your ears and eyes tuned for that. I don't know how you would keep your eyes tuned, but do it anyway. Or I guess keep your eyes tuned to your phone to see if a new app or a new episode comes out. Do that.
Keep an eye on those notifications.
Yes. Turn on notifications. Subscribe to this podcast. Okay. I have been Jacob. He has been Steve. adios, and we'll come up with a better tagline next time.